welcome to today's episode of The Fix. I'm pleased to say we've improved our tech a little bit since last week. We've got earpieces here. Aaron, show yourself.
Bluetooth.
We've got a screen, so we're going to see the VTs, we're going to see the videos when they come up, so there's no more of those breaks that we had last week.
We've got a big problem, Michael.
What's the problem?
We haven't got any air conditioning.
We haven't got any aircon.
As you can probably tell from the sheen on Michael and myself. Yeah. So if you want us to have air conditioning, go to support.novaramedia.com, make a one-off donation or a subscription, because a new media for a different politics also needs presenters who aren't dripping in sweat. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
Excuse the shine.
Back to today's show.
More exciting than new tech is that later we will be joined by the one and only David Vujanic. You might know him on Twitter as Vuj.
No, it's not.
No, but the name's Vuj. It's at David Vujanic.
There you go.
But the name is
the
Vuj.
Main man. Because there is an at Vuj, right?
Well, presumably.
Different guy, there is,
So, me and Aaron are going to talk about some of the big stories from the last few days first. Obviously, there was a tragic attack last night in Finsbury Park. Someone drove into people outside a mosque. We presume a white nationalist. It seems like it had Islamophobic intent. We're not going to talk in too much depth about this week. I think probably quite soon we'll get some people on to talk about potential rise in Islamophobia since the events of the past 12 months. For now, we're going to focus on the Grenfell disaster because this is undoubtedly the biggest government failure, the biggest scandal the biggest crime that we have witnessed
corporate manslaughter
in our lifetime. And what is absolutely shocking is the extent to which 6 days after the event, there is still zero clarity from the government on what went on.
Yeah.
It was clear from 2 days after the event that one of the main reasons that the tower went up in flames when it shouldn't have done, those fires should be confined to one room. The point of a tower block is sometimes fires are going to get started, and that fire should not be able to spread from that one apartment, and definitely not spread from one floor to another. There's supposed to be an hour before fire can get through one person's private flat to another person's private flat, and that should give people time to get out. That clearly did not happen in this case, and it was known since, I think 2 days after, with a Times headline, that was because of very cheap cladding that they used, cladding that's banned in the United States and Germany. You can see in this image we've got up now on the screen, so this is the recommendations from the people who sold that cladding. They said any building up to 10 meters, you can use PE. It means polyethylene. Above that you have to use something called FR, which is fire resistant, and above that you have to use A2. Above 30 meters you have to use A2, which is super anti-combustible. Grenfell Towers is 67 meters high, and they used the PE, they used the cladding that's only supposed to be used up to 10 meters. The sellers of this cladding were quoted saying, this cladding is meant for petrol stations and very small commercial buildings. This should never ever have been put up on a building or on a tower that people live inside. What's remarkable is the extent to which the government remained completely silent on how the hell this happened. So we're told there's a public inquiry coming up, but they can't even tell us in ambiguous terms whether or not this was legal. So Philip Hammond went on Mar yesterday and he says, as I understand it, it's illegal. One, why did it take you 4 days to say that? Two, it's not as I understand it. You've got a housing department with a shitload of bureaucrats, and the job of those bureaucrats is to say, this is legal, this is not illegal, you can put this up, you can't put this up. So if they don't know, so imagine it is illegal, which it seems like probably it is. If you couldn't tell us for 4 days it was illegal, then how can we trust you to enforce that law?
Yeah, but the exact wording are it's guidelines.
No, so this is...
So what I was going to say is, so in terms of the residents who are still alive, or the loved ones, the relatives of those who've died, in terms of a criminal negligence case, I think clearly there's a massive breach, regardless whether or not it's illegal.
Philip Hammond said it's banned. So what I first thought was that there's perhaps what's going on here, why there's mixed messages, is because it was guidelines to put it up, but it's not the law to put up non-combustible material. But actually, what Philip Hammond said, so either he's lying and he's mistaken.
He's mistaken because I've actually looked at the legislation sides and it's not. It says specifically it's a guideline, and the stuff that's law is highlighted. It's distinct.
No, so I saw something that said it has to be non-combustible or has to be something in this. I was reading something today that says it looks like it is banned, but the issue then is, if you ban something, you need to work out how that's going to be enforced.
Fundamentally, this is your point, right? The fact that it's even remotely ambiguous.
The fact that it's even remotely ambiguous, the government is supposed to make sure housing is safe.
Yeah.
The government can't tell us what was on the building.
Yeah.
They can't tell us if it was illegal.
Yeah.
And either they're completely incompetent or they're staying silent because they know they've got blood on their hands and they're trying to work out how to cover their backs.
Yeah.
Which is precisely why, all credit to him, David Lamia says the police should be seizing material right now to make sure none of it gets destroyed.
Yeah.
Because if a crime happens and all the different people implicated in it close ranks and don't say anything definitive for days, what are we supposed to do but think that there might be a cover-up coming?
Another Hillsborough.
We don't need to wait for a public... Have a public inquest by all means, but we don't need to wait for simple questions
Inquiry.
to be answered. Public inquiry, yeah.
Yeah.
You can have both.
You
So
can
there was a misleading interview on Newsnight saying, is it inquest or inquiry? We should demand both, and we should demand that they both have very broad terms so that the correct people can be brought to justice and all the questions we have can be answered.
Yeah. I think the inquiry would be, I think if we do have an inquiry, it has to be very, very soon. It can't be, years in the future. A few quick points. Last year there was meant to be a fire and safety check by the fire services in the borough of Chelsea and Kensington. That didn't happen because of a shortage of firefighters. Boris Johnson shut down many fire stations during his tenure as London mayor. I think 10,000 firefighters, I think that number's correct, isn't it? 10,000 firefighters have been cut since the Tories came to office in 2010. So there's that issue. Even though this wasn't the right material, even though it may have been illegal, had those firefighters not been cut, had that safety check taken place last year, this could have been averted because they could have said, well, actually, this is not the right material. Secondly, the head of housing for the borough, some toff, right? I can't remember his name.
I don't know his name.
He's the deputy head of the council as well, spent this weekend at his family mansion in Gloucester, So it really this for me is emblematic of a catastrophic failure. And I gave a speech at the weekend. Owen Jones hosted this event, anti-DUP protest in Westminster, Whitehall. And I put it in quite clear terms, and I think this is correct. We must never forget, and every single body has to be a reminder of this, that we have a system, we have an economic system, which means that people die in their beds so that millionaires don't have to look at a 1960s tower block. Mm-hmm. That's the system we have. And it means that a £10 million refurbishment didn't spend an extra £5,000 to have a fire retardant material, didn't spend an extra £200,000 to install a sprinkler system, despite the fact the same council spent, I think, £1.5 million on an opera. Last year. And there was something about a tax rebate as well for very wealthy
So
residents.
Last year, this came out in the Times today, social renters in Chelsea and Kensington, they paid £55 million in rent. Only £40 million was spent on improving houses. So they're making a profit of social renters. And they're using this to say we're making really good efficiency savings. They're paying for operas. And they gave, in 2013, the leader of the council wrote a letter to everyone, well, not everyone actually, wrote a letter to anyone who wasn't on benefits or who didn't have council tax support to say, because of particularly good efficiency savings we've made, you can all have a £100 rebate. And those particularly good efficiency savings is them getting away with...
And what year was this?
This was in 2013.
So yeah, this is almost... Yeah. This is coterminous with the residents of Grenfell Tower saying, we don't have adequate provision here for a fire. 90% of the residents of the tower signed a petition highlighting this. The people who led on it received letters from the council saying that you will face criminal prosecution for defamation if you carry on with this. Those people are now dead. Those people, the people that led with that letter, who said that this is dangerous, are now dead. Meanwhile, the head of housing for the borough is in his family mansion in Gloucester. He should be in fucking jail. Yeah. The old Bill should be fucking detaining him, questioning him. He's a fucking criminal. Maybe I'm going to get done for defamation. I don't give a fuck. It's absolutely outrageous. This is the single biggest political outrage of my lifetime in this country. And we cannot let them get away with it. Every single day that passes, more information, evidence comes to light about how this was the most brutal, savage act of class war I think I've ever known in this country. And
the sad thing, one thing about this is, and it relates to neoliberalism as a political system, is this isn't just about Tory toffs not giving a fuck, although it's to a big degree about Tory toffs not giving a fuck. So it's also neoliberalism in general and spreading out accountability so that corporations can cut costs or property developers can cut costs by slipping through the cracks. So you said because of cuts the fire brigade couldn't go and do an audit. Now, in the past, up till I think it's 2004, No building that had more than 6 people sleeping in it could function, could exist, without the fire brigade first having come and given it a fire certificate. So the fire brigade, they have to come around, they have to look at the building and say, yep, this looks good. And if they say it doesn't look good enough, then that building gets shut down. That's the fire brigade doing it independent. What Tony Blair brings in 2004, he's like, well, why have we got this state body doing it? We're going to privatise it, we're going to deregulate it. Now you've got various different companies all competing to be contracted to give a fire certificate to a building. Now, if you're a private property developer and you want to employ a fire certificate person to certificate your building, do you want to go for the really strict one, who's going to tell you, oh no, you've got to get different cladding, you've got to replace this door, you've got to replace this alarm, or do you go for the lax one that you know has a good record of not causing you any problems?
Yeah.
We know the answer.
I mean, also, what's the future direction here? Where are we going as a country with this? Jacob Rees-Mogg last year was talking to a select committee, and he said, well, actually, leaving the EU, Brexit, means that we have big opportunities in the future to even have less regulations constraining things. He said, well, actually, we can have the same regulations, the same protocol as they have in India. Now, I'm not attacking countries in the global south, but clearly they have lower standards in regard to this kind of thing than Britain does at present. So where do the Tories want to take us? It's further and further in this direction. Less protocol, less regulation, less health and safety culture, which Boris Johnson, David Cameron, every Tory under the sun has vilified pretty much my entire adult life. That needs to stop. And Boris Johnson has blood in his hands, because like I say, this could have been averted by simple safety checks carried out by the London Fire Brigade. They weren't, because there weren't enough of them. So yeah, at every level, council level, central government, it's just...
And the tragedy with this...
It's a fucking mess.
Is that, so it's similar to the deregulation of banking in the sense that they deregulated it, people got to take more risks. It was unclear who was responsible for the banks lending here, there, everywhere. Great for the banks. They made a profit when it all came crumbling down. Who paid? Working class people.
The
Right?
gains are privatised, the losses are socialised.
Exactly.
Onto us.
In this case, with mass murder. I can't remember what my point was.
Neoliberalism. So the gains go to very few people.
So what I was going to say is the tragedy of this is the people who knew the consequences of this, the people who knew who was winning and who was losing, was the people who lived in that tower. They complained. They knew that this arm's length company was screwing them over. They knew that the authorities weren't doing the regulations they needed to do, so they were doing it themselves. They were saying, we think it's unsafe that this gas pipe is visible. We think it's unsafe that we don't have a door here and a door there. And they got harassed, bullied, threatened with legal action. We might have, absolutely tragic, we might have a picture coming up. So there were 2 people who tragically died in the accident, who had been organising to try and, not the accident, sorry, in the fire, who had been organising to try and improve the safety of Grenfell Towers, signed petitions, or organised petitions, organised a demo to try and get it reviewed. They passed away in that fire after getting legal threats from the council telling them that they were in danger of defaming the council.
There you go. There's a silent vigil, I think, tonight, right?
So that's that picture there,
Yeah, there's a silent vigil tonight. I was down there on Friday night, and I have to say, this is a working class area. I mean, it's an enclave of, overwhelmingly BME people, very, people that are really struggling in London. And around Grenfell Tower, there are thousands of young boys just milling around, 16, 17, 18 young boys. And that's always a recipe for disaster. But there was no riot. Actually, I'll be the first one to say there should have been. They've got so much to be angry about. There wasn't, and it's a testament to the cohesion and solidarity of that community. And I remember seeing, there was a conversation between 2 young boys. One was saying, we should fucking riot. And then the other one was saying, well, that's the last thing the community needs. Business will be smashed up. People will get arrested. It's the last thing we need. Then the other one said, well, what else do we do? Where's our voice? How do we get representation? How do we change things? And what I would say to that second boy, and he listened to his friend in the end, he was sort of brought over by the argument that the last thing you need is to be fucking nabbed by the police after going through all of that as a community, is that there are many things in this country that need to be changed, and for a long time the political process has looked incapable of facilitating that change. I personally believe that's now changed. Now, people can still be very, ambivalent about the ability of the establishment to evolve in a progressive direction in this country. I totally understand that ambivalence, but I think for the first time in absolutely my lifetime, there is the path to a different kind of country. I'd say that's with Jeremy Corbyn and Labour, but it has to go hand in hand with social movements around housing, around the interests of ordinary people, white, black, brown, everywhere. So, yeah, I think,
Should we talk about Labour?
We should talk about Labour.
Yeah. You go.
So, yeah, we got polling over the weekend. And all of this interplays with Grenfell to an extent, because obviously Theresa May has looked even worse as a Prime Minister over the course of the last week. It's impacted on her approval ratings, obviously her party.
The biggest abdication of leadership I've ever witnessed.
And Tory MPs are saying this. Cabinet ministers are saying this. It's not just us, right? So, Salvation have Labour, this is the most recent poll, it was yesterday, wasn't it? Salvation have Labour at 44%, they have the Tories at 41%. The results represent a surge in support for Labour. At the start of May, Salvation had the Tories on 47%, so they were 6 points higher, and Labour on 30%. So Labour have climbed 14 points since the start of May, the Tories have gone down 6. 20 points difference since the start of May, pretty remarkable. One of the biggest turnarounds in modern British politics. And obviously I've been saying it'll go higher, and people say, well, when's it going to stop going fucking higher? 44% is really high. What I'd say is that if we do have another general election this month, next month, September, October, next summer, what's clear to me is that actually the biggest surprise in all of that is the Tories are only down 6 points, because they're fucking terrible. Theresa May's useless. And I don't foresee them going far below that, because we have a rigged media in this country, particularly in print. So older voters, simply by virtue of where they get their information from, I think they have a strong, there's a bulwark of the popular vote there. I don't think they'll ever go below the high 30s.
It's true, actually, because while the Daily Mail, the Telegraph, etc. at the moment are kind of, they're smelling blood with May, they're really going after May. It's actually very interesting to read the Times, the Telegraph, the Mail this weekend. Yeah. The moment they replace her, they will be closing ranks around that person as the true leader and the Prime Minister to take us forward. Don't think this is the Times being unsure whether it's going to support the Tories. The Times is not going to come out in favour of Corbyn before any future general election.
So for Labour, I think to govern, to win a general election, I think they're going to have to probably get the highest number of votes ever. Because people are saying, oh, Theresa made a terrible campaign, the Tories lost this rather than Labour doing well. The Tories got, I think, 13.6 million votes, which is huge. The record is 14 million. So I think to win the next general election, Labour probably need to break the record, which is 14 million held by John Major in 1992 for the Conservatives. So a personal approval ratings, however, is a different story. Personal approval ratings is catastrophic for Theresa May. This is from YouGov, which was taken a few days previous to the Salvation poll. Mr Corbyn surging from a terrible -42 in late April to being equally liked and disliked, which in modern politics is a success story. Tells you something, doesn't it? Meanwhile, Mrs May has gone from being +10 in April to -5 at the end of May to -34 last week. So you've basically seen an inversion. She's now basically, in terms of her personal approval ratings, where Jeremy Corbyn was at last November, and that's when he was being attacked by his own party and the entire media. She's not having either of those things happen yet. So that's that's amazing. I didn't foresee that, to be quite honest. In the Sunday Times, basically in light of that, I think, as George Osborne said on the Marr show, wasn't it? She's the Walking Dead.
He said he's a dead woman walking.
Dead woman walking, a bit morbid. Yeah, a bit morbid. This is in the Sunday Times. MPs warned there had been a collective collapse of trust in May's leadership, and a cabinet minister told friends he was worried about her state of mind. I mean, that's quite a weird thing for a cabinet minister to say on the record. Another minister close to May said, quote, she'd better stop feeling sorry for herself, pull up her socks and start to lead, and if she can't do that, she should go. Shape up or ship out. So we've got David Davis and Boris Johnson looking like the most likely people to try and replace her. This is from another former minister, that same article in the Sunday Times. Like I say, right now it's so interesting to read the Mail on Sunday, the Sunday Times. I'm more interested in what Peter Hitchens or Ian Burrell's got to say in the Sunday Mail on Sunday rather, than a Polly Toynbee. Because I know she's fucking wrong about everything. At least, no, but it's true, right? At least if I read the Mail on Sunday, I know the fucking nonsense that these people are peddling to, the 13.6 million people that just voted for Theresa May. This is from the former minister. Quote, she's going to have to go sooner rather than later. The critical moment is June 28th and 29th, when there are votes on the Queen's speech. If it looks like they will be lost, which it could do, you have to strike. So we could be seeing Theresa May go, I think, in the next week or two. If the polling continues like this, or if it slightly deteriorates next Sunday, next weekend, I think she's as good as gone.
And in that situation, yes, let's continue undermining the authority of Theresa May. She absolutely deserves to have that authority undermined. But whoever replaces her, they were part of the same government that let Grenfell happen. They was part of the same government that pushed disabled people to suicide because they cut their benefits.
Yeah.
These people are frauds. You know, there's a housing department that can't tell us what is a legal thing to put on a building. You're frauds. If you can't tell us that as a housing department, like, what are you doing in government? You have, obviously I don't expect Philip Hammond to know this all off the top of his head, but he can, unlike us, he can call the top civil servant for housing. Unlike us, he can call the leader of Kensington and Chelsea Council. Unlike us, he can call KCTMO. Why has he not got the answers in 4, 5, 6 days? It's because either they're incompetent or they're lying.
Yeah, he can break some balls. I mean, there's 70 Tory MPs who are landlords who voted against a Labour amendment to the Housing Act, I think in 2016 or 2015, which said, look, we want a certain minimal standard in terms of housing to make it habitable for people. A certain minimal standard. And this was voted against by the entire Conservative Party, 70 of which, like I say, are landlords. And their rebuttal to that was, well, look, the fines that would be incumbent on landlords if they failed to meet these new standards would mean that, you're hitting the renter hardest of all. The precise people you're claiming to want to help, you're actually hitting them hardest. Same thing they say with workers when you want to introduce a minimum wage. Complete fucking bullshit. Easiest way a landlord can get around that, guess what? Don't fucking rent out a shithole which is dangerous and could fucking, is highly flammable or could just fall over or, hasn't got the most elementary of safety standards. So,
or expect a lower fucking return, because people buy to let. Everyone's like, I'm not even, I'm just renting it enough to pay off my mortgage.
Yeah, bullshit.
At the end, you get the house.
Well, it's bullshit.
But even if you charge the rent, that's just enough to pay your mortgage. Obviously, like, there's big property developers like the real enemy, whoever built this fucking building.
Yeah.
But this idea that, buy to let, that's kind of fine if you just charge a fair rent. There is no fair rent. Rent is theft.
I mean, buy to let, you need 25% deposit, you need a big deposit. But in terms of the rents to what they're paying back on the mortgage, they'll all be. You do not just cover your. That's fucking bollocks.
Anyway, that's enough of us, isn't it?
That's enough of us. We're gonna get the big man,
David Vujanic. Get him on. We're gonna watch a fabulous music video, a fabulous tune that he made. It's called "Fuck Brexit."
Foreign boys, we still here. 2017, have a nice music. Free Pavel, let's do this. Sexy foreign boy, yeah, I know I look sexy. Tracksuit on and your girl want to text me. Got an English girl and her dad votes Tory. Sorry daddy, but I make your daughter horny. Step in your house to fix some pipes. Oops, now I'm fucking your wife. Steal your job, I'm sorry, not sorry. Shades on low while I sit in Costa Coffee. Sexy.
Fuck Brexit, we ain't gonna exit. Squatting on a Lambo, started in a bedsit. Why'd I leave this tracksuit on? Flexing. We ain't going home, fuck the election. Still squatting on a block with my brethrens. Foreign boys, it's all love in my section. We getting vodka from the Polski sklep, and we getting the Adidas straight from Sports Direct.
Fuck Brexit, we are here to stay. Fuck Brexit, never going away. Fuck Brexit, and fuck minimum wage. Fuck Brexit, and Theresa May. Foreign boys, making noise. Slap squad, on your block. Immigrant, never stop. Tracksuit on and we drilling for life. Sexy foreign boy, I'm an alpha male. I wipe my ass with the Daily Mail. You can hate all you want, you can vote Donald Trump, but you can't build wall without the immigrant.
In this foreign land, I am a foreign boy. Foreign made clothes got me looking on point. Pull up to the club, sipping on that foreign brew. In my foreign cash, with the crew. Man voted out cause they don't like who. I'm flexing on Brexit, that's just how I do. I'm on a mission to stop all that division. So if you're rolling with us, sing along so they will listen.
Fuck Brexit, we are here to stay. Fuck Brexit, never going away. Fuck Brexit, and fuck minimum wage. Fuck Brexit, and Theresa May. Foreign boys, making noise. Slap squad, on your block. Immigrant, never stop. Tracksuit on and we drilling for life. Foreign boys, in this bitch. Ariana, I want to fuck you. Free Radek, free Pavel, free Igor. Home office, they try to stop the boys from having a nice. Greatest immigrants of all time. They try to stop the boys from having a nice. Greatest immigrants of all time.
Welcome back. We're joined by the one and only David Vujanic. How you doing?
What's up, brother? How are you?
The main man. Very good.
Yo, what's up?
The main man, David.
Yes.
If you were to have like one word to define your vocation, your job, what do you do?
I'm just gonna say creative. It's so vague, man. It's almost cliche as well. But I actually don't know what to define myself as. And
Creative's a bit like Tinder.
It is, isn't it? Like, I'm a creative.
Is that what it saes on Tinder?
No, I don't have Tinder. I've got a missus, so I stay off Tins for now.
Yeah.
Only when you're abroad, then you can. Do you know what I mean? GMT +1. You're in the past or the future, but no, nah, man. I don't know. I guess I just do what I love, kind of thing. That's what's been my mantra, and so far it's been working out since I was like 19, doing all this YouTube business. So it's been cool, man.
Yeah, we need to get a bit of background because a lot of our audience are nerds. They probably just discovered you when you interviewed Corbyn. But we're going to start with nerds.
That's all right. No, I'm a nerd as well.
But so that was Fuck Brexit with Foreign Boys.
Yeah.
You also do FIFA and Chill.
Yeah.
You're pretty successful for a 25-year-old. 100 quid Twitter followers. FIFA and Chill often has 500,000 views.
Yeah.
How did you get into it? What's the story?
I've been working on this channel for Copper 90, which is a football channel on YouTube, and I've been running for the past 5-6 years. And it's just been like we've been doing weekly shows, and then FIFA and Chill came up as like an interview concept. We managed to get some really big names on it, and eventually got Jeremy Corbyn. Yeah. So that was an absolute pleasure to interview the man himself. So yeah, it's been great, honestly. The journey's been a rocky one and a crazy one, but I'm here now, so yeah.
And where can people find you on Twitter?
At David Vujanic, so David and Vujanic. That's my Twitter.
And the name is from Serbia.
Yeah.
To what extent has your personal background, your life story, impacted your politics?
Massively, hugely. It's almost like it's hard to define and articulate in a short space of time. Being a refugee from a war which was, it was signified by nationalism and the rise of ultra-right movements, and each segment and the ethnicities were so spread out, and then to kind of grow up in that environment and then come here into London, a very multicultural city, mixing with loads and loads of people, and that really built me as a character even more. My dad was a bit more ultra-right, my mum was more liberal, and I just kind of learned that way isn't the way of fear, war. I became really anti anything to do with violence per se. And justice is a massive thing to me, and I just think because I've experienced war and foreign policy on my own back from when I was a kid, you realise how every decision has an impact on humans. I think that's how I kind of have my world view, is that everything matters, every little detail, as you guys were talking about Grenfell. It can just come down to bureaucratic yes and no's, and people can die. So coming from that sort of background, you're grateful to be here, but also London's been amazing for me, living here as a refugee, and then living in that system of moving houses, living in a hotel, in a hostel, 5 people in 1 bedroom, the typical kind of immigrant story when you come here. Like going to university, getting my degree.
Where'd you go to university?
I went to Essex, Colchester.
Oh, so you enjoy that?
It was alright, man. I had a good political department, so I did international relations.
Yeah.
And that was a turbulent time in my life. I wasn't really enjoying university, but I'm happy I got a 2-1 and got out of there. So I've always been kind of politically engaged in terms of what's been going on, but recently in the past year, I've really kind of found another passion for it.
And what was that? What prompted that? The resurgence of that?
I mean, for me, Jeremy Corbyn. Honestly, it would have to be him, because when I interviewed him, he's just a normal guy.
Yeah.
And that's why I always felt, from kind of seeing him on the scene for me 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, so wait a minute, this guy really speaks to me from a different perspective. So let's forget left, right, socialism, capitalism. Just from a human level, I felt he isn't lying to me, or he isn't trying to lie. And obviously, he's peaceful, but his approach to foreign policy to me is refreshing from a Western government. Imperialism in terms of America and Britain and Western nations has had massive effects on the world. So to see someone who doesn't want to drop nuclear bombs and wants to talk and have dialogue, I think is so refreshing.
How big an issue do you think that is for younger people? Because we had 61%, low 60s turnout, didn't we, for people in their late teens, early 20s. Wasn't as high as people initially said, but it was higher than 15 points up on last time, basically. How big an issue do you think that is for younger voters? Because obviously, people in their teens, early 20s have sort of been castigated, diminished by the political class. They can't make a difference in a general election. They kind of just did. Yeah. But do you think what you're saying, your opinions on that sort of thing, do you think they're quite broadly shared amongst people of your age?
I would say so. From circles that I kind of operate in, and young people, and obviously multi-ethnic backgrounds, working class, that seems to be the main factor that's grabbing people. It's like, wait a minute, this guy's actually for real. Like, there's an element of trust, and I feel like when you're from poor areas, when you're from ends, whatever you want to call it, people read through people easier. So I think Saskeller said it on Victoria Live, the rapper. He kind of said, we can see through this stuff. Like, I don't even need to hear your facts and your propositions. I'm connecting with you. Like, okay, this just seems real. Even if they don't understand the policies and the wider impact, they're connecting with them on that personal basis. So I think it's really refreshing in politics to see that, and that disengaged youth and people that were disengaged, even counting myself, are now tuned back in. Yeah, I think it's really good, and we're really kind of pushing the current government. Yeah, I feel like they're under real pressure. The media, the fact that the media didn't have an effect on Corbyn getting into this position that he's in now.
With social media, it's things like
social media, kind of pushing people to vote, young people to go, JME, rapid, loads of little impact. So to see that level of engagement, to me, is beautiful.
I think before we continue, we're going to watch a little bit of that interview with Corbyn. Am I right? Yeah.
Let's go to that.
Go for it.
Yep, when I first came to London, this used to be all fairly industrial and fairly grimy around here. But Hackney Marshes was that lung for people to play football and dream. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, there's pictures of sort of 1930s where there'd be like 50 or 60 football matches going on as far as the eye could see.
We have an audience called a Copper Fam, and I sent out a tweet asking for questions. It was probably the most popular chill that we've had, and loads of questions have come in, and of course a lot about your campaigning around football. And Christian Hennig says, unlike your rivals, you've had very prominent policies regarding money in grassroots football. What made you take that decision?
I love football. I love sport as a whole. I'm not brilliantly sporty, but I love it and I love watching it.
I'll join the club.
And we'll go jogging together, okay? And I just think we've got to nurture the grassroots of football, because the lesson for children of being able to go out and play, get muddy,
you're cool, man. You're cool.
Win, lose, draw, whatever, is such a good thing for their character.
Oh, I thought you said 5. 5 and live, they sound quite similar. I was waiting for the 4 or the 3.
Yeah.
Tell us the story of how you sorted out that interview, because I quite liked it.
Because I've been a Corbyn fan. Actually, you just reminded me. I saw him at SOAS when he spoke, and there was still loads of criticism towards him about Brexit. But I just felt, no, this guy's the guy, man. And then I really wanted to talk to him. I felt like I'd get along with him. So I played football with his son once, randomly. This always happens in my life. Stuff just kind of falls into place without me even planning it. Played football with his son, kind of made a contact. And I'm like, look, this is what I do. I interview these people. I'd love to have your dad one day. Like, eventually it'd be so great to have him. Obviously, the general election was called like 6, 7, 8 months later. So wait a minute, I need to get Corbyn, but I didn't kind of want to go for his son and be that guy who's like, yo, man, can I talk to your dad now? So
I think that's legit in that situation.
It is, but
Ben is sound, man.
Yeah, he's a dope guy, man. But I was like, no, I didn't want to kind of be that guy. Yeah. I was like, no, I'm gonna find a way. Eventually, got in touch with like his PR lady. Yeah. And she wasn't. I don't think she was sure either. But eventually, it kind of came through because he was so busy, of course, with campaigning the past few days. We managed to get him on the day he was putting forward his football policy about giving more football rights.
It's a sick policy.
Yeah. What was the football policy?
5%
of profits
TV
go to fans.
Yeah, 5% of profits from TV rights from every club go to grassroots football. I think in general, I think that's an amazing policy.
And also, I think John McDonnell backed the 20s Plenty campaign, so there should be a cap on away tickets. 20
£20. Yeah. No, he's awesome, man. And eventually, it just happened. He was like, okay, you got 15 minutes. That day, bring the cameras. I was like, what the fuck?
No, I was going to say, it's interesting that you asked for a year and then they give it to you, because I think there was one thing I was so pleased about during that campaign was they'd been a little bit conservative about that before.
I felt
think Stormzy, for example, last year came out in favour of them. I think they didn't even give him a retweet. Whereas this time they really recognised, because they were just very conservative. They're like, oh, maybe Stormzy said something rude once and then we'll have a bad Daily Mail spread. Yeah. And what they realised this time was this really matters. This is our potential voters, and this is a media where we can really get through. And they said yes to everyone.
Yeah, so
not everyone is in that. They said yes to
Lad Bible.
They're
Vujanic.
Lad Bible as well.
They're in Lad Bible. Enemy.
Facebook Live,
Enemy was after us. Yeah.
Kerrang.
No, it's very good. I mean, it's good. They woke up to the effect that social media can have.
Yeah.
Like even JME he spoke to him on
Yeah.
ID, and the Daily Mail did run a smear story on JME the day after. They tried it, but once again, people know him. You know, online you've been following these people. You're not just gonna believe a Daily Mail article and get swung the other way. Yeah. So it's really good, and I hope they carry on engaging with characters online, with people that are followings.
If you're looking at, let's say Tom Watson, like the Labour Party apparatus was watching this, and you had a message to them, and they think, oh well, actually young voters are going to vote for Labour regardless, doesn't matter who's leading the party.
Oh no.
What would you say to them?
Oh no way, it needs to be the right person.
So how important is Jeremy Corbyn overall?
Corbyn, if he leaves, and the leader that comes in, I feel not a lot of trust towards, I'm not voting next election.
And do you think that holds for a lot of people your age?
100%. You're looking at a lot of votes. I'd say definitely a few percentages. 4 or 5, I think, is gone off that. No way.
And who did you vote for in 2015?
Green.
Right. So you've voted Labour basically because of obviously the manifesto, but also you trust personally Jeremy Corbyn.
That's it. Because I can't vote for charlatans and the lesser of two evils. I just can't bring myself to, like, you know, when it was the whole Hillary thing. If I was American, I couldn't have brought myself to vote. That is like picking shit or shit. Like, how do I just willingly, in my opinion anyway, I'm not a fan of either. So I struggle for myself. That's why I voted Green before. Some may say it's a cop-out, but now I was like, no man, this just feels right.
One thing I wanted to ask you about was the reaction to your followers, because obviously what you see from the mainstream media during that election is that there were lots of cultural leaders coming out in favour of Corbyn. JME, yourself, Ransom Bance comes out in favour of Corbyn, novelist, Stormzy, Lily Allen, all these people. And what's unclear from watching it is whether this is a small crew of people who've sort of come to support this guy, or whether it's them and their fan base. Because obviously, like Navarra, our fan base is capital P political. You know, they already came from sort of like left-wing politics. Yeah. But your audience also comes from football.
Man, you do see a lot. Because I have quite a young audience, male dominated, because of the football stuff.
Yeah.
There is quite a few kind of right-wing, right-leaning people that come at you and you're a fucking idiot. Or
Did you get beef?
You communist. I just don't engage in it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the time I ignore, block, or mute. But you do get a lot of it, and I'm just like, wait a minute, this is not what I'm saying. So it's interesting to see. But then I start thinking of psychologically, these are young kids. I wonder what they're told at home.
Of course.
I wonder what they're told at school, their environment. So I can't be angry at them really. And that's kind of how I view the right in general. Is I'm sure where they've grown up is just they've been just in a way brainwashed. Really, it's crazy.
Also, you can't judge people's opinions by the trolls on Twitter, because they're always just the worst.
Yeah.
Sorry, right.
They might be lashing out because they're like, I trust this guy, I like him.
Yeah. Why?
And then it's at odds with my received worldview, and then sometimes that can lead to sort of most aggressive response.
But in general, it's positive. I'd say in general, people are kind of like, wait a minute, why should I vote? And they kind of start reading up on it a bit more and engage in what's going on. So in general, positive, but 20-30% of people, not everybody's gonna agree with you, and especially in the football world. And
you're a Labour Party member now?
I haven't joined.
You haven't joined?
I will this week. I was meant to last week.
Novelist is a Labour Party member, right?
Novelist is a G. Yeah. He's a guy, man.
You're going to join?
I will, 100%.
What would be your CLP? Do you know what area? You're in North London, right?
Yeah. Haringey.
Right.
MP.
Is it Dawn Butler, maybe?
No, it's David Lammy.
David Lammy
is my guy. Yeah.
He's been impressive the last week.
Comrade Lammy. He's been sick this week, hasn't he?
He's been great, man, in the media this week in general.
I think we're going to get him on soon.
Oh,
we're going to get Comrade Lammy on. Yeah, no, I was chatting to somebody at the weekend. We're going to get Comrade Lammy on.
You have to.
The big man. He's been Hollywood this week. He's been on Grenfell, like top man.
He had a friend who died in the
absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's like tragic. You can see he really feels it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope that
I met people.
Justice comes as soon as possible for those people.
I want to focus a bit more on because we talked about the trolls that weren't very happy with Corbyn. Obviously, there were a lot of young people who weren't historically politically engaged. Like they didn't vote in 2015 and voted this time around. I want to know like your perspective on the extent to which this political awakening or this new enthusiasm in politics from young people is going to last, and sort of like what direction it will go down, or if it's sort of a fleeting thing that could disappear as quickly as it arose.
Yeah, I hope it isn't too. I mean, I'm aligning it maybe a bit too much of Corbyn, but I do feel if he went and the leader that came in was centrist again, similar to the Blairites that were before him, I could see a lot of us going. Personally, I would, so I'm kind of judging it from my own bubble, but I think that is key. That is definitely key, because it could be fleeting. Because it is fleeting then for me anyway, because if I was to, I would probably stop engaging as much, because I don't think that individual would challenge the government the way currently Corbyn and his team are. So I think that's what will kind of make or break it. So I do see people, it is a political awakening, 100%. I'd say a consciousness thing where people are kind of going, they're just tapping in now.
Yeah.
So
What are the big policies? What like matters most? So if there's going to be compromises in government, what things would you say 100% this has to happen? This cannot change.
Foreign policy.
Foreign policy.
Foreign policy in terms of dialogue, and I mean, he renewed Trident, right? But there's talks that they'd get rid of it eventually.
He wouldn't use it anyway.
He wouldn't use it anyway, of course, but
He wouldn't press the giant
I
red
would
button.
love to get rid of nuclear weapons. I would love to. I think disarmament is the way to go. You do that, you're not a threat. I just don't believe in nuclear war in any sort of way, or war. So I've had enough of that in my life. So I've seen it, and it's not the right thing. It's madness. It's mass madness to be in killing up each other. So for us to have that and potentially want to use it, I think is a madness, like a madness of the human brain on a political spectrum. So I hope one day we get rid of that. So foreign policy, but also education is very important.
Tuition fees?
You know what? I think maybe I can see the argument for us paying something, but not at 9,000. The 3,000 limit per year, I think, was, it's reasonable. You're going to get into debt. So I don't know how viable it is to completely go free on tuition fees. Obviously, we had it when...
So that's not a red line for you?
It's not a red line for me, because I went to university, and as much as it was important, I learned more. You go to uni for the experience, let's say that.
Yeah,
for me, anyway, life
yeah.
experience. I didn't, from a academic perspective, gain that much.
Yeah.
I learned a bit, but I wasn't that engaged, and I felt it was more of a life experience. So maybe I just don't hold as much of a kind of view on university per se.
I wasn't passionate about the tuition fees when it first
Neither
came out,
was I,
because I was
yeah.
like, I paid. I think I was the 3K one.
So was I, yeah.
And I borrowed it and never thought about it, so I never paid back any of it. I've never had that level of income, so I just see it as sort of like some future tax that I don't need to think about. But then when it was actually announced, and I saw the effect it had on the doorstep, and sort of the effect it had of sort of raising our expectations of what we can expect, I thought it was quite.
Well, also, the taxpayer actually pays more at 9K than we did at 3K, because the level of non-repayment's so much higher. So, I mean, there's just no argument for it being £9,000.
There is though, 9 is
so
ridiculous.
It's bananas. I've got one more question for you. For me, which is obviously you're a creative, you're at an interesting sort of intersection between culture, politics, comedy, gaming, music, it's all there.
There's a lot.
So obviously this thing that's happening, this awakening as you've called it, is ultimately bigger than any one politician, although in terms of it being channeled by Labour, it seems that it will have to happen under Corbyn. What's the role of culture, and to what extent do we need a cultural movement around these ideas in terms of social change? People like you really matter in that respect, don't you? Because you're not a politician, you're a
no, I'm really not.
You're a cultural influencer.
I guess so. Social commentary.
A node.
I just think humanity's in crisis, and having gone through, I'd say, quite a vast array of experiences for my age at 25, I feel my insight is different to that maybe average person, and of course it's different. But I've had unique experiences in terms of how I've grown up, from the war to living in, working class family, to divorce, to mental health, I've experienced many issues and things. So that gives me kind of a unique perspective, and that's definitely one of self-improvement for people to take care of themselves in terms of mental, emotional. That to me is very important as well. So I think politics is hugely important. But this awakening is happening in many ways, I feel, and it's kind of reflecting in politics now through Corbyn and social media. I do think culture in that aspect is important, because they are galvanizing more people. It's just it's almost like a wave, and I feel like now it's becoming a bit of a tsunami. And when the tsunami comes, it's just going to wash away all the bullshit that was there before in terms of the Tory party and that establishment.
So you feel that it's going to just wipe it out?
I think it does. It definitely gives it a push, because people with the followers that may be speaking more politically now can engage more people. I don't see how it can be a bad thing. If the Daily Mail or the Sun circulates in such a manner, why can't opinion in other areas flourish as well and circulate in numbers and retweets and likes? It's maybe harder to count and to actually analyse, but why not if we have such other outlets that are so readily available that I don't think are good for us, our state. So I think it's important. It's just so much is happening right now. I struggle to articulate at this moment this current climate. You know, like I always see you on Twitter, you know, hundreds of retweets, thousands of retweets.
Is it?
Yeah, I do. Like I see your face quite a lot.
Yeah.
In terms of you speaking about current events, and I didn't see people like that before. Do you know what I mean?
That's
On my timeline. Or,
yeah. Well, same with you. The first time I saw you was when you did the Slav squat video.
Yeah.
Which was like, had me in, like, I was in tears the first time I watched it. And it's an interesting intersection, like I say, between culture, comedy, politics, satire.
Yeah.
But like you say, that's like there's something happening, and that stuff wasn't there 5 years ago.
No, it wasn't.
And every day it's more resonant, it's more powerful, more people are tuning in.
Especially, you know, politically, it's definitely new and refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
Like my whole timeline on Twitter is politics right now, and you've got various people that talk about normally music and girls and boys and, do you know what I mean, like football, and now they're all just politics. Theresa May, Corbyn, engagement. So I think that's how it's been reflected. You see it on just everyday people that maybe don't have a political background are now really into it. So I hope it lasts.
You know, I think that's. I'd just like to say I'm really glad you came on, because I think one thing that I wanted to do after this election, and one thing that I really hope would happen, would be that the sort of cultural movements that became more political, and the political movements that learnt a bit more the importance of culture, sort of like that.
It connected, right?
That movement lasts, and also that the one strengthens the other. So I think in the long term, it does seem a bit risky to me if sort of the engagement of cultural figures like you and cultural movements is dependent on Corbyn. I mean, I want him to be Prime Minister, I want him to be leader, I think he will be, but we want to be building sort of like more sustainable, genuinely linked up movements, because you should be the leaders as well, you know. It's like
maybe that's what it is. Labour need to maybe engage more with people online in terms of connecting with them.
Would you ever run for Parliament? Would you ever be an MP?
In then maybe 30 plus, when in maybe.
But it's not something you think, because most kids when they're younger like have no fucking chance.
You know
but you would consider that?
I would consider it.
Yeah.
I would consider it. You know, but I do need more experience. I need to learn more about the system itself, just to kind of educate myself and then move on, you know, professionally grow. So hopefully, I mean, I would maybe one day.
That'd be sick.
I see it happening. Yeah.
I see it happening, man.
If you want some campaign managers.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I'll get you guys, man. No, it'll be good, man. So I hope it all lasts, and yeah, man, it's a crazy time, honestly. My head's in the clouds. It's just crazy right now.
Well, next time we have you back on, we'll have aircon.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely sweating.
Absolute legend, man.
Yeah,
no
cheers, man.
And we got
what's coming on.
We got a present for you.
Thank you so much.
It's one of these, right?
No.
Check it out.
No future utopia now. I like it.
Do you have tea or coffee in the mornings?
It's in there.
Do you have tea or coffee in the mornings?
I have bro, whatever I can get my hands on.
Is it?
I love hot drinks.
Eastern Europeans love tea, no?
Bro, us from the Balkans, like we will do anything to just chill, you know. So, coffee, Turkish coffee is amazing as well. Man, to tea, coffee, a cigarette, you can't go wrong. Breakfast of champions.
On that note,
definitely,
mate, you've been a diamond. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is The Fix. We'll be back on Thursday.
Yeah.
Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, 8 PM. Tune in. You've been great. See you later.
Thank you for having me. Love.
Victory for real people.
Us. It's about us.
But for all of the darkness, every cause has an effect.
40 students on the roof of Millbank.
Tienen mucha experiencia.
For all the talk of change, the present moment is really one of crisis.
A crisis of democratic representation.
Of identity.
A climate crisis.
Of a failing economic model which isn't working for most people.
We can't have a media that's beholden to advertisers or the political ambitions of oligarchs.
Which is why, in 2013, we founded Novara Media.
Unlike corporate media, we are funded by our subscribers.
There's no tax avoiders, there's no oil money, and there's no lords. What we're creating is media for you, which quite simply, you make possible.
We're looking to raise £40,000. That will allow us to not only keep on paying our contributors, but give them a little bit more, as well as keep our studio and take our fantastic Novara events nationwide.
To help us get there, go to support.novaramedia.com and give a one-off donation, or even better, sign up for a subscription.
We've already achieved so much, but the truth is, we've barely started.